I'm over the hoop. Reaction now from former presidential candidate and former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney. Governor, very good to have you.
Thanks, Neil. Good to be with you.
Do you think he should be reappointed?
I do, but I understand why some people are really hesitant. Ben Bernanke missed the housing bubble. And this is a guy who studied bubbles in the past and tried to understand why they occur. This housing bubble was obviously the cause of a great deal of pain for Americans, and he missed it. And as a result, a lot of people saying he ought to be out of that office. On the other hand, he's a pretty skilled expert at dealing with recessions and depressions and studying how you avoid depressions. And he's done a pretty effective job keeping us from having a total financial meltdown. So he's done some things well, some things not so well. Net, you know, I'd rather have him there than someone like Secretary Tim Geithner getting the job or someone else who Barack Obama might appoint. I think we're a lot better with Ben Bernanke.
All right. Again, we're waiting for a final count, Governor, and you're indulging us on this breaking news here. It does look like he's going to squeak by, but it is a fairly given statement to say here, Governor, that it will be the closest margin of victory for a Federal Reserve chairman designate on the part of an administration pick for the job ever. What does that say? What signal do you think that sends the global markets, the American people?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that people in this country are very, very upset with the fact that this country is not yet up and running again, that we're seeing an economy that's not creating jobs. After $787 billion given to the president to try and stimulate the economy, his stimulus did not work. It did not create a single net new job, and people are upset. And when they read about big bonuses and bailouts of big banks, they're looking for someone to blame. And obviously the administration is looking around for scapegoats. Other people are looking for scapegoats as well. Ben Bernanke, certainly along with the Federal Reserve that he represents, deserves a fair share of the blame for what happened in the financial meltdown. But on the other hand, this was not something he did because of politics. It was something he missed, and a lot of other people missed, by the way. And he really is, in my view, the most skilled and capable person to help guide us out of the mess we're in.
You know, he will forever be remembered, fairly or not, Governor, with that rescue in the fall of 2008 and judged historically on what he did then. And he argued, as did Tim Geithner yesterday in a grilling on Capitol Hill, talking about the Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner, and most of that grilling, as you know, sir, coming from fellow Democrats, who said that, you know, we wasted a lot of money back then. And the proof is that they all paid the money back in short order. And Tim Geithner's argument and Mr. Bernanke's argument has been, if we didn't do that then, we would have been in a free-fall meltdown. Do you agree with that?
Well, first of all, if the money's being paid back, which it is, we didn't waste a lot of money right then. That was an investment made to try and keep a collapse of our entire financial system from occurring. And I think that's the case. I think had President Bush and Secretary Paulson and Ben Bernanke not pushed for a TARP-type program, we were going to be in a free fall that would cause the collapse of not just a few banks in Wall Street, but banks all over the country, killing not only a few jobs, but all the jobs in this country. That's what we were facing, and the TARP program kept that from occurring, and fortunately the money's now being repaid, and that's the right thing to happen. But the big loss, and this is of course what a lot of folks are doing, is diverting attention from the real failure of the last year, this lost year, where President Obama and Congress spent $787 billion and got nothing to show for it. They said they'd hold unemployment at 8%. It rose to 10. That was a number that was supposed to happen without that plan. Look, that was the failure. TARP got paid back, and it kept the financial system from collapsing.
So you feel it was well worth it?
Well, it was the right thing to do.
Okay.
You know, I remember talking to Senator McCain, and he was in the middle of a presidential campaign when the vote came up. He said, look, it is very bad politics to be for TARP. On the other hand, it's the right thing for the country. And that's why he voted for it. That's why a lot of Republicans voted for it. They knew it was bad politics, but they also recognized that if we saw a cascade of bank failures, one after the other, that the entire free economy would grind to a halt in this country and probably in various places around the world. We were on a precipice which, you know, now we can sit back and say, oh, it wasn't so scary. Well, frankly, it was a very scary time for a lot of people. And that's something which was resolved. But the bigger issue that was not resolved is how come this economy isn't up and growing again, and did the $787 billion stimulus plan actually stimulate anything, or did it create a bigger debt burden that we're going to have to pay for many, many years to come?
We do know as well that stimulus plan is costing $85 billion more than we originally thought. So that's a whole other issue. Governor, I just want to bring viewers up to date, and thank you for your indulgence here. For those of you just tuning in here, we're watching the floor of the United States Senate where they're voting up or down now after procedural vote on just allowing that vote on the reconfirmation of Ben Bernanke to head the Federal Reserve. He is certainly going to break the record for no votes, and a little secret here, that record is held by none other than Paul Volcker, who when he was reappointed in 1983, in a reappointment, keep in mind it was in the middle of a recession, he had 18 no votes, and that's the record of no votes. It's fair to say that Ben Bernanke is going to break that record. What I'm curious now is what they're trying to do, Governor, to avoid another meltdown, to avoid another mess. The president is saying, even to those banks that have paid back TARP, even to those who have paid back the money with interest and then some, you are going to pay this fee, this fund, for another 10 years as a way to pay back government for that. Again, even though they've already paid it. This comes down at a time there's a crackdown on bonuses and how much bankers and financial figures should be paid. Are we going too far here?
Well, what the administration is doing is looking for scapegoats and trying to point fingers at others and hope that people will be deflected from the failures of this administration. The first year of this administration has been a lost year. They didn't accomplish anything. And so they're looking for people to blame, and going after bankers or banks is one way of doing that. Now, I think this whole populist message, which the Obama administration is pursuing, is unhealthy for the economy. It's certainly, populism has never built an economy, never built a strong nation. It's
Governor,
the wrong way to go.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt your train of thought there. We now have confirmation. Ben Bernanke has been confirmed. We'll get the final vote for you very shortly. I'm sorry, Governor. Continue.
That's fine. Let me just say that he'll probably have another tough confirmation vote 4 years from now if he decides to be re-upped, because he's going to have to rein back the excessive money supply which he's built in order to hold inflation down, and that's going to be tough, and politicians never like that. So tough times there. And with regards to back to the bank tax, if you will, at the same time the president is saying to the banks, hey, you guys, you ought to be lending more money, then he's also saying we're now going to tax you some more. These guys don't know which end is up. The confusion, the lack of direction that's being sent by this administration is making it more difficult for money to be available in the private sector. That's got to get resolved.
4 years from now, you could be the president doing that, right?
Well, only if I run, and that's a decision I'm not going to make for quite a while.
All right, I won't even get into that seedy political stuff. But Governor, I did want to get your sense of health care and spending in Washington in general. Scott Brown, who you were very instrumental with helping get elected. In fact, he singled you out more than anyone else as making that possible. Has apparently not reverberated enough to the powers that be in Washington to slow their spending down. There was no mea culpa, no humbling moment on the part of the president's speech yesterday or on the part of Nancy Pelosi or the Democratic leadership today. If anything, Governor, they seem to be doubling down. The president committing billions for a national rail project. Nancy Pelosi, another $300 billion on top of the money already allocated, or she wants to see allocated health care. On the same day they raise the debt ceiling, on the same day the Senate nixes this government freeze on spending for non-discretionary programs, something's not connecting.
Well, they don't get it. They frankly don't understand the Scott Brown phenomenon. They don't understand that people in this country do not want to see government getting larger and larger and larger. The people in this country are not happy with the massive debt. They realize that when people borrowed too much, they lost their homes. When businesses borrowed too much, they went out of business. And they see the country doing the same thing that individuals and businesses have done, and they're concerned about the future of this great country, and rightly so. And they want to see government pare back all of the initiatives and programs. Last night, the president's speech was like, you know, the kitchen sink speech. I mean, he spoke about everything, all sorts of programs, everything from the visitors list at the White House to Don't Ask, Don't Tell, to new spending programs. He really ought to focus exclusively and entirely on growing our economy, creating jobs, as well as making sure that our men and women are successful in Iraq and Afghanistan. But other matters should just be off the agenda. Nancy Pelosi ought to get the message. Create jobs, focus on the economy, put these other things to the side. No one in the country that I know of thought it was credible when the president said last night, pass his health care plan and it'll save $2 trillion. I mean, that's just not reality. We understand that. Subsidizing all these people will add cost. It will not reduce the federal burden and reduce the federal deficit.
Governor, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for, you could be a co-anchor. I mean, you could take a pay cut and do that. You did a very good job following up on this breaking news. Very good seeing you again.
Thanks, Neil. Good to be with you.
Mitt Romney again. Ben Bernanke